Rapids. I'm going to let her do her introductions and share her information today. Oh, and just again, this is being recorded, so just keep that in mind, and we'll share the recording later today or tomorrow. Okay,
So,
go ahead, Sunshine.
My monitor is backed up, so I think I might have to stop. So I don't know if the next person is ready. Might have to stop in this room.
Debbie, do you think you could go ahead and jump in?
Yes, I can.
All right, flexibility, I like it. So yeah, go ahead. If you want to turn your camera off, Sunshine, and figure out what's going on, that'd be great. You can send me or Josh a message if you need any assistance. And we'll turn this over to Debbie Stevens.
All right. Am I ready to share?
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Mine will be fairly short. What I want to just share with you is the Iowa Map competition is open for this year. The 2022 competition for students in fourth through 12th grade. And it can be any public school student, it can be after-school students, it can be homeschooled students, Christian school students. So it's any students in that 4th through 12th grade. Maps are to be submitted individually or as a team of 2. And all of the different details for this are listed on the website, which I believe I sent out to everybody at one point. One of the things that I want to stress is that we talked a little bit locally. We keep trying to change what the theme is every year, but it has to be related to Iowa. So I think we chose a theme that can be used year after year. And that's mapping Iowa's unique history and geography. So that can encompass just about anything. And I put a few ideas down at the bottom. It can be natural or man-made, like we have the Mansion Crater and the Lost Hills, effigy mounds, other historic sites. It could be historic mining towns. We have a rich American or Native American heritage. Half of our counties and cities have Indian names. I know Oskaloosa, Mahaska County, Ottumwa, Wapello County, all of those are like Native American heritage. And so there are several things. It could be weather anomalies like our derecho, could be ice and snowstorms, could be just about anything that they want to do connected to Iowa. So that should generate ideas for different people. And, you know, it could be in history class or could be in conservation areas. So the sciences, it could be in literature, it could be all kinds of different things. So hopefully they'll find things. I did leave the Bee Branch Watershed Green Alley program link in just so people could see an idea of how you can continue to add to a story map, and so that they could look at that. But now the new version of our contest, we all are using the new template. So everything else is considered a classic template for the story maps. And so they are archived, but you can still go in and use them. But they want this in the new template, which really is quite easy. It has a lot of different options now. They've just added a 3D option, and I think there was something with animation coming up. So lots of ideas that students could have, and students are very creative. And so we have the different contest entrance list from the last few years. I've gotten that all updated. I also, for the ArcGIS Online, if they don't already have an account, how to set it up free, all kinds of resources for help if they need it. The national competition, it relates the fact that the different top 5 maps in each division, which are middle school and high school, will get $100 for the top 5 in each of those. And so the national winners get other perks. So all of our winners are judged. The top 5 get $100 each in the middle school and the high school. In the past few years, I've gone ahead just because this is a passion. And if it's a team, they only get $100 per team. But I have found sponsors or myself that will give $100 to each student. So we've been pretty generous. Now, if we start getting 50 applicants, I might not be able to do that. But for the ESRI dollars, any dollars we don't expend, I'm putting into reaching out with packets and ideas for teachers now to get more things going. So that I'm doing that this year. And I have a few teachers that are starting to be interested. They can look at all the guidelines. I have all of those. I have the judging criteria that any of you can look at, and so can the schools. And I have kind of a little rubric for this that I will put together for the judges and update anything that changed. And then there's just a questions contact info. And right now, I'm the only contact because the State Department of Education lost their social sciences people and their sciences go-to person, and they are hiring, and I think they may have hired now. Those folks have not gotten back to me. And then for teacher registration this year, for whatever reason, the Google form would not allow me to update. And instead of trying a new thing, since it just comes to me anyway, I just said to email me. And so any of you that have questions, here's my Stevens DE William Penn address, so you can get there. And right now, I will tell you that Waukee, Grinnell, Ottumwa, and Oskaloosa in my area, and I haven't reached out again to Pella, but I will be doing that. They're interested. They have not registered yet. So they can't get the forms until ESRI sends them. And so probably in February, I'll start having people actually sign up. And hopefully we will get more people. I do know that the map from last year, the winning map in the middle school arena, was absolutely awesome. They had done things I have never done in a story map. So I'm hoping that this will be a good year. And if you have some questions for me, please ask, and please consider being a geo mentor if the school in your area needs one. And I'll let you know, or they'll let you know.
How many did we have for Iowa last year, Debbie?
We had, oh gosh, let me just turn mine on for myself here. We actually had, well, Waukee South Middle School, we had 3 teams of 2, I believe, and we had just 1 single entrant. So I think it was 7 students worked on these. And I don't know for a fact that Carly had Evan help again. Carly's brother is Evan from our IGIC committees and group. So he's been really good to help out when they needed it. That's how they got started in the first place. So a mentor really is helpful for these teachers. And if you have no more questions, that's all I have. And I am glad to answer questions via phone or email if you need me. Just let me know.
Thank you, Deb. And I did put the map contest website and her email in the chat box if anyone wants to copy and paste that. I hope I spelled it correctly. Maybe you should take a look, Debbie, and just make sure I didn't
I'll look.
fat finger anything.
Yep.
How are you doing, Sunshine?
I'm better now. Can you hear me okay?
I
Yes.
can. You sound good.
Yay.
So we're going to let Sunshine from the city of Cedar Rapids kind of do that, unless anyone has any questions for Sunshine. Anyone? Anyone? All right, go ahead, and Sunshine, it's all yours. Once
Hi.
Josh, yeah, he did it. Never mind.
Thank you. I'm Sunshine McDonald, and I work as a GIS analyst with the city of Cedar Rapids. We are currently doing a project with the National League of Cities, so I'm going to go through our current stages, where we're at. So let me share. So does everybody see that?
We can see it. We're good. You're good.
Perfect. Okay. So we were invited to participate in a city of Cedar Rapids. So actually, my computer is blinking. So we'll see if this keeps going. So we were invited by the National League of Cities for their inaugural Capstone project, where it was a pilot project started this year to connect private enterprise partners with public agencies. So it started in June of 2021. Started in June of 2021, and it actually wraps up in January of this month, but we have a presentation in February. So it consists of 8 enterprise partners. Did my screen sharing stop?
It did. It was up and then it went away.
I know, it's okay,
Nope, it's
how is
back.
this? Okay, so I
Yes.
had a lot of
Mhm.
blinking screens, and so I was just going off my paper anyway. So we have, with this partnership, there are 8 enterprise partners and then 17 cities. And so these are some of the partners that we have on the bottom. And obviously, we are paired with Esri. But some of the other partners, for example, I think the Uber project was using Uber to try to help people get vaccines for COVID. And there is a link at the end that you can, that I have or I'll share, that will have more background on all these projects. So here's part of ours was this broadband availability. And part of this was that there's been a lot of talk in our recent government for infrastructure upgrades and just a lot of, knowledge seeking on what is available. So the cities that were involved in this project were Cedar Rapids, obviously, Butte, Silver Bow, and Percival. And then part of really what we're trying to look at is that infrastructure or broadband infrastructure is a key for economic development, personal economic advancement, and social equity. So here's a brief process of how this project went. We started out with a kickoff meeting with our National League of City partners, so we got to see all of the projects that were going on, and then we had mini work groups with our team of the 2 other municipalities. Then we had a city team that was developed. So, and part of our city team is members from community development, economic development, the right-of-way acquisition team, GIS. We also, outside is our Cedar Rapids School District. And then we also had someone from the library because we were talking about broadband availability and internet availability from the library. So the next step was to build an application, and the key components were Survey 123, GitHub, and then ArcGIS Hub. And so I want to say, stepping back a little bit for the questionnaire, during this process, this was probably one that took me the longest. And one of the reasons that I thought this might be fun to share with the group is that if anybody else is looking to do a broadband survey in their community, especially maybe in the rural counties, to kind of get a feel of what's the pulse of the availability, I'm happy to share any materials or any research we did. I spent a long time looking at a lot of questions for the questionnaire. And at the time, I know Dubuque had released a broadband survey as well as the central Iowa, like Des Moines, I believe I think there was about 8 counties that participated. At the time, the survey was closed, but that might be another opportunity to put all of our results together and kind of see, what that looks like. Okay, so we built the application and then we promoted the application through Facebook, media releases. Since we had someone from our economic development division, they were able to contact business partners and as well as give the internet service providers a heads up and maybe, to look at our questionnaire before it was released. And then we also have it on our website. The next step was to analyze the results. And so this is the part that's in progress. And how we wanted to do this was look at the FCC data. And then Esri also has this equity index tool. And then finally, we're going to present the findings to the public and the National League of Cities in the next, I think in the mid-February. Part of our plan, we found a lot of success when we showed the results to the public. And I'll show you in a little bit how we did that. So we want to make sure that when we ask the public to participate, that we can give them results too. So there's a link that I have at the end of the page, but what we did is that Esri had kind of the survey linked to the UCLA. It's a speed test, and then everything is there. It's well documented. If you look over on the side that says deploy and configure, really all you had to do is download this web file and then just configure these parameters to show what your portal was, the client ID to your survey 123, and then your UCLA speed test. And all of the documentation was great. And then as well as when we had some questions, we were able to contact the owners. Here is just screenshots of the survey. I did open it up. We had it closed, but I opened it up, and so feel free to run through it if you'd like. I'm going to close it probably the end of the day. I'll just delete whatever information you put in it. So feel free to take, and then actually if you don't see this right away and you want to have me open it up, I can do that, as well as we have a PDF of all these. So since we had a person from economic development, they were really interested in the business aspect. And so we initially talked about 2 surveys, but as far as analyzing data, if we can put them into one, and so we have it all into one feature service, that would be great. So we built a lot of rules that if you hit the business button, then if you hit the business button, it would take you to certain questions, and if you hit the residents. So here's where this was actually 2 websites together. So if you hit this yes, begin UCLA survey, it'll jump to a broadband internet test. So this is just a screenshot. And then what it does is that it'd fill in these, it would enter these so that the resident didn't have to enter those. The only thing that they had to do was enter the internet service provider. And that was a little bit of cleanup at the end, but it wasn't terrible at all. Here are just some samples of the questions that we asked. And then one of the other key things that we enjoyed about this survey is that we decided to have the demographic questions look a little bit more optional. So if you see here, this bottom portion of the slide will show that, hey, would you like to answer these demographic questions, yes or no? And so it gave them a more transparent way to basically opt in. So then once this survey was completed and you hit submit, it would take you right to this page. So initially, so this is a hub, but initially we wanted to add more data to this, but just due to time and we wanted to get this to release, this actually sufficed, because once you submitted your survey, you saw how many were out there and what were the average speeds. And we noticed that although we had 1,000 surveys taken, we had at least double the amount of views. So we were wondering if people actually went back to kind of see how many more people have completed the survey. So then this will be useful once we start analyzing the results. We're going to build this hub out a little bit more with graphs, charts, dashboards, insights. So we don't know what that really will look like until we analyze the results. So here's the part. So here's some of the analysis layers that we're looking at. One of them is the FCC form, form 477. If many of you have seen this before, one of the things that is interesting is the green is the well served. And so the definition of well served from the FCC, we are wondering is if our data matches that. So for example, I clicked on a green area. It shows that there's potentially 41 housing units. It gave it a score of 317. And it looks like from the top that there were 21 broadband offerings. So going, not 21 different providers, but 21 instances of that going to a household. So one of the things that I'll go on a little bit when we were initially looking at our results is that we do have some that don't have internet service. And that was due because of lacking infrastructure. And when we zoomed in on this area, it does say that it's well served because there's adjacent neighbors who do have that infrastructure. So one of the things that we really want to see is that how does our data compare to this layer? Does it seem high? Because if there is one person with connection of terrestrial services, does that mean that that's the rating it gets? When in fact, we do have some census blocks that are not well served. So those are just some of the questions that we're looking into. We're analyzing it on the census block, and then we'll likely summarize some of the public data to the tract level. We're also looking at the social vulnerability index, and we'll use that in the tool for the equality index. We also are going to add, we have city Wi-Fi downtown and at our libraries, and kind of look at what that range looks like. So again, we just started to do the analysis. So our initial findings, we're pretty happy with the amount of surveys that were completed. 1,000, over 1,000 appears to be statistically significant for our population. We look at the spatial distribution down to our south. That is more of an industrial area. So the representation looks good, although the pink is residential and the blue is business. So I'm not sure, we only had 65 business surveys, so maybe we could capture a little bit more of that information. The last one, the surveys with no broadband infrastructure in well-served areas, I gave that example previously, and I see those a little bit more towards the edges. So right now we're using Insights, which is, this is the tool I like to use as far as being able to do some screenshots, put it into Word, interact with it. So this is just some really basic information. So out of our 1,051 surveys, we had 986 that were residents, 65 that were businesses. I don't have it on here, but I believe it was 11 who did not have internet service. If you look at the average download speed, if you combine both business and residents, it was 102. But if you look at them independently, it was 167 and 97. Then up at the top, we had a bunch of criteria saying, you know, what is the impact of having internet for your education, for entertainment, for healthcare. One of the interesting pieces here that I see was the job seeking. So we had quite a high number in the survey who were not using that to look for either unemployment or jobs. But we did have a really high proportion using that for work related. Another example is the needs met. So this is definitely not the full findings. I just wanted to give a screenshot of what we're doing in insights. And then again, here's another piece of it, the average age, which I find interesting as well. So one of the things that we want to look at by looking at some of the census information is, does our survey demographics match what, or representative of what we have in our population in Cedar Rapids? So here are some links that I can share. The Capstone Challenge series, which is a little bit more information about that. Here's our link for the our broadband project with, and you can Google this one. Oops, sorry. Then the Ookla speed test from GitHub, and then Esri also has a great story map about some more information about this broadband FCC data. Feel free to reach out with any questions, send me an email. I'm happy to share any materials that we have at any time.
That was really great, Sunshine. I like how you took into account people who might have lower than their surrounding neighbors, because sometimes equipment is the problem, not the access to the internet. And so I like how that took into account. There was a question from Debbie. She wanted to know, did you use Hub to push out the survey, or did you send the link to different populations, or how did you get, spread the word?
We had it on Facebook. I think it went out through KCRG as well in the Gazette. So we had several, and then up through our economic development staff, they pushed it out through their contacts for businesses. So we really worked with our media, or our communications group to push this out.
I have a question, Sunshine, about the people who don't actually have internet. You said you had, what, 11 people respond? It seems like it would be harder for them to do this because they don't have internet. I'm guessing, do you know that they went to the library? Do you know what their source was?
So I forgot to mention this part. So you could take this just from your phone. So if you had a cellular device, and then you could say, I don't have internet. So that was a couple of the 11 that I saw, because they were interested in sharing their story that they would really like to have access. We did put a separate application at the libraries, at the Cedar Rapids libraries, at a kiosk, so that potentially reaching those who had went to the library to use the internet. And we took off the option to do the speed test, just so that wouldn't, but we didn't get, I think we got 5. So that may be another, if we're looking at the demographics, especially of this data set, which we also have their household income. I'm not really sure exactly if it's representative of all of our populations. So then is this a follow-up survey to some of these other populations that we think we've missed? We also had a discussion with the school district, and they have the addresses of people who needed mobile devices. So once we get a little further, we're trying to see if we can get that data at a census tract layer. So to also add that, to give us another piece that there are known internet broadband limitations in these tracks.
Yeah. I think those are the most, that's where I think the most bang for the buck would be. So yeah, that's definitely good to see.
Awesome. Any more questions for Sunshine? All right, that was really interesting. Thank you. So now we have Robin at Iowa State University is going to share about some new information that's available through the imagery, I think. I'll let her explain.
All right. I'm Robin McNeely, the Iowa State University GIS facility manager. And I'll be talking about some projects we've been doing and some projects that we hope will be coming up. I'm assuming y'all can see my my slide.
You are assuming correctly.
Excellent, because you know that doesn't always go well. So you can read my title just fine. The idea here was we've been hearing about historic Iowa data sets, mostly imagery that's some are georeferenced and some aren't. And I decided it was time to hire some students to collect inventory and get this data out as ArcGIS services so that folks can more easily use it. So we started off last semester with a grad student who was collecting the statewide 24K topo maps, the oldest ones that she could find on the topo viewer. She downloaded those, inventoried what was available for the state. The whole state's covered. She created a mosaic data set right near the end of last semester and published that data set to the Ortho server. If these slides get shared, I figured these links will make sense. I guess if you wanted to, take pictures or something, you could do that too. I'm assuming most people are familiar with the Ortho server, and this data set is in that list, the AGO application at the very bottom. Unfortunately, if you were to try that today, it's not working. We've been having some IT network port issues the past couple of weeks with our server, and we're getting closer to having it fixed. And when I say we, I really mean Josh, because he's the one who's working with IT to get it fixed. But normally you would see that out there. So when it's fixed, you will be able to see it in AGO. And if you add ArcGIS server services into either Pro or desktop, I'll do that. Then you can use them obviously in the GIS software. So here's an example of what some of these look like. The Ames area, the Ada Hayden Park. If you guys have been there, you probably realize it used to be a gravel pit, which is what it looked like in 1975. And then the oldest, one of the oldest ones, 1945 for Wayland. It's almost artwork, isn't it? The next project that also began last semester was inventorying and collecting the Iowa Township plats. They're atlases by county. If you're familiar with seeing these, it's basically who owns what property, and there's also some more information in there, like where schools were and churches and such. These are available as digital images from the University of Iowa Map Library. And we work with them, are working with them because this project is ongoing, to not have to download them through their website. They're just, we're just getting them from them in county chunks through OneDrive. And so my student has been georeferencing the counties that we've been getting that aren't georeferenced, but some of them were georeferenced at Iowa a while ago, a decade ago-ish. And we've been using those as is, but those scans are not quite best resolution. And for now, we're going to put them up, but the intent is to redo those. Again, this will be a service going up on the Ortho server. Here's what the collection looks like right now. I kind of think those the multicolored quilt look is really pretty cool. There's 46 total counties we have that could go up right now. The ones outlined in blue, there's 16, and those are the ones from the University of Iowa that came in georeferenced. You can see some black and some white areas within finished counties where we have issues with the way the images were georeferenced, and so we're going to go back and fix those. So this will be quite cool. I believe as soon as she gets Union County done, we're going to publish this service here in another month or so, and then just keep adding to it. So that will be a very soon thing for y'all to see. Next project we did started last summer, and it's on hold now. There are a lot of ISU campus maps in the archives at the library. Some of them have been scanned, but not too many of them. And none of them have been georeferenced and put together in a collection. So a grad student did similar work where she inventoried what they have in paper folders, what they have online, did some georeferencing of the very old ones. And the plan with this particular project is to also have old photos for buildings through the years attached to the image, and also some text that you can hyperlink to that explains the history of the building. Especially cool would be photos from buildings that no longer exist. And there's been discussion to create 3D models for campus, the current buildings and the old buildings. So that one, I think we'll probably pick up again this coming summer. Here's an example of the oldest map we've found so far from 1868. Not a lot going on. What you would know, to be campus down there, the barn, the house, and the college is basically a building. It also makes it difficult to georeference something like this. There just isn't a whole lot to attach to. Here's one that's a little bit later. You can see at the bottom, 1896. There's a few more buildings on campus, and the basic shape of central campus roads is there, although those have changed too. These are the kind of images that we're dealing with. Georeferencing has been pretty good. Not as good as I would hope, but then again, I have fairly high hopes. I think something that will make our job easier is to georeference some of the more recent ones that have features that overlap as you go backwards, and actually work backwards off those. We'll see how that goes this summer. Future work, which I'm hoping to find some students to work on this semester and also coming summer. As you can see, the BLM has the scans of the survey plats when Iowa was first surveyed. They're all out there as ungeoreferenced JP2s. And some of you may be thinking, wait, I thought that data set already existed. Kind of. If you've noticed on the ortho server, there's a GLO layer of black and white survey maps. And you can also get those from the Iowa geodata site by County Mosaic. But they are black and white, and they're not as interesting. And some of the information that you can find on the color maps is not there. I have an example after this. You can see what I'm talking about. And the second one just came to my attention there, the DOT transportation maps. Those images are out there on the DOT site, and they go back to 1919. And I think those would be very interesting to get into a service also. You could scan, you could swipe and see the changes. And we're working with someone at the DOT to get those images as TIFFs. Would just be easier. So here's a picture of what the image style would be for the old survey plats. Pretty cool to see that kind of information. Since I just zoomed in on this so you can see detail, off to the side there are notes, which are sometimes filled in. Interesting. This is down in mainly Lee County. And then an example of the transportation map, DOT. If you haven't seen these, you can see 1947. I think it just neat to see these old maps. And so these services will be up, and hopefully people will find the old data interesting. I believe that's it for mine. Yes. Any questions?
Really, really interesting, Robin. Good job.
You know, it's my grad students. It's my students, but thank you. I felt like I had to pull them together. But
They
they
need
do the work,
direction.
and it's awesome.
Need
Yeah.
direction, yes.
And they're happy seeing their work go live.
Well, I think everyone here can, has been on that site either for aerials or old type maps, at least once. And I love it when I am talking to a colleague or somebody who's not really in the GIS world and they say, yeah, they went to this, it was at Iowa State. They usually remember that part and they found all these old aerials and it's like they've just discovered it. It's very cool.
Yeah, it is. We get suggestions sometimes, from people saying, I use your site all the time and I really want to see this data. Like someone said, can we see the old historic railroads? And I said, I'll see what we can do.
Job security.
Yeah. On to you, Penny.
Okay, I can do this. I'm sharing now.
Awesome. Thanks, Robin.
Yes,
You're welcome.
thanks. I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of Esri's. It's one of their election solutions. I call this my Where Do I Vote app that I create for every election that's coming up. Especially this is going to be really useful with the redistricting that we just have, because I've shuffled most or a great many of our residents are now in a different district or voting somewhere else or that kind of thing. So I shook them up this year. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview on what this can do and how to set it up. Brief. And I will do a presentation at ISAC and maybe again at ITAG, a workshop or a presentation, something, probably presentation, to walk people through this process to help them. It's kind of, you get a template from Esri and all you have to do is add 2 data layers, your polling places layer and your voting precincts layer. That's, or in this case, this map also had some school districts. I used the school districts layer. So I published those layers out of either ArcMap or Pro. And those, before you do, those 2 need to be related to each other. So you will have a common field. That common field for us is probably the precinct name field, and they must be related in a database relate, not related on your ArcMap. So those are a couple little hiccups there that can trip you up if you aren't aware of those. And so once you have your map created, and you can see I have, once I zoom in, I have my polling places on there. Once you have that created, then I like to make an app for it with the web app builder. And the important part I want to talk about here is a widget that you can add. Oh, I always go in and remove that with ArcGIS Web App Builder, and then put your own little custom a ballot box or something that makes it look like an election kind of app. Customize those a little bit. And then for the widget, the important widget. So go down here for this widget, selecting from the available widgets, there is a district lookup. This is the cool thing. And I'm sure that after you see it, if you aren't familiar with it, you can think of other ways. Hey, I could use that. In the setup, you've got geocoder is fine. The world geocode search, you can add your own local address points layer in here if you have that added to your map. Or you can do your own geocoding and add that URL in there. The setup here. selecting a layer, and you have to select a polygon layer. I'm going to select voting precincts. And then the polling, you have to select a related point layer. Remember, we talked about that database relate, and that will be my polling places. Okay. Once those two are set up, you can also do directional settings if you want to enable driving directions on this app. Okay, so that's the basic. From there, you can add other little things. The search you can set up to search by precinct, polling location, address of the person, any search criteria that you want on there. If you have that layer, you can add it to the search. And so you just have to type something like my last name or my address in here, and it will pull up my polling location. Better have a unique last name or that's not going to work. I want to go back now and show you, would like to. Go. I want to show you the app then. And my assessors or my auditor's office uses this all the time when people call in and say, where do I vote or what precinct do I belong to? They keep this on their desktop on a shortcut and they pop it up and they answer people's questions this way. Okay, this one is not set up for, that's another part of your setup. Restrict it to USA and maybe even oh, sorry guys, this is the new one that we just made, which is not fully configured. I need to. There's one. Not configured. Oh. Anyway, I will just tell you the rest of this. We will stop share and the cool part about it is there's a pop-up box that happens when you've selected, put in your address. It'll highlight your polling location and give you directions if you want. It also pops up information. This is the address, the name and the address. You're voting at the library. Here's the address for the library. Here's the hours it will be open. Here's the date of the next election. Here's the deadline for registering for that election. Here is also, you can attach sample ballots. When you attach your sample ballots, be sure that you trim off the barcode around the edge. And that you put a watermark that says sample ballot on it. So then you are definitely, otherwise you can't put it out there. The Secretary of State will come after you. So because they are all barcoded and individual, you definitely don't want to have that out there and have somebody trying to reproduce it. And definitely watermark it as a sample ballot. So when people are getting ready to vote, if they know that before I go to election, I can pull up my ballot, the correct ballot that is linked to my polling place, and I can see what's going to be on that ballot, I can do some research. Because so many times I've had a ballot and it's like, I don't know these people that are running for park board or whatever. So you can look at your ballot ahead of time, do a little research and choose a thoughtful candidate. Make a thoughtful vote. So that is the Where Do I Vote app. And again, really popular, especially coming up for the elections. we'll get thousands of views of that. And this year, I'm I'm guessing way more than regular election years. But with the, with the COVID, we only had a few voting places around the state or around the county for city elections. We didn't have our large number. I also put it out for caucus locations. Where do I caucus? So I create this map and this app for a lot of different, but I've cleared most of them out, the old ones. You got to keep your ArcGIS Online clean or it burns up all your storage credits. And then you have to start throwing money to Esri. $100 here, $100 there.
Penny,
Question.
if you want to in the chat or send me an email of the link to see the web app so people can click on it when I send out the video, that'd be really great.
I will find, if I don't have a perfect functioning one, I will create it. I'll quickly finish the setup of one that will function so people can use it. There might be one on the Boone County website. If it is, I'll send you the link to the public one I've got out there, an old one. But
Okay,
I've probably pulled off the sample ballots because they're no longer relevant or current.
I went to the Boone County website and pulled up the map. And when it comes up, the layer voting districts cannot be added to the map.
Yeah, they've changed. I've pulled the old voting districts off my
Gee,
well,
have you been
this isn't
redistricting?
really this is maybe not the best time to do this since I pulled my old voting districts off my GIS database. So it's lost its link. I'm putting them up with the with my enterprise server now. So they're linked into real-time data in my database instead of a published hosted layer on ArcGIS Online. So I'm in the process of converting everything over from one to another. Like, yeah, I need more projects like that in my life.
Hey, Josh, while I'm thinking of it, before we close down, will you grab a screenshot, export the chat, please?
Sure.
I appreciate it. We just got some links on there. I want to make sure we grab them all. Does anyone else have any questions for Penny or Debbie, Sunshine, Robin?
So yeah, come to like ISAC and see how it really works.
Well, thank you. So this is one of two. This is a two-parter. We're going to be doing this again. Some IGIC users presentations, little mini presentations, and the next Lunch and Learn will be on February 23rd, a Wednesday. And if anyone, I still would be looking for one more presenter, I think, to fill out the time period. So if anyone's got another project, story, application, something that they would like to share, please don't hesitate. You all get emails from me all the time, so I know you have my email address. But I would encourage you, and we're starting to flesh out the schedule. I really appreciate the suggestions, but for those that weren't in our business meeting last week, I am welcoming and entertaining and inviting you to send me topic ideas, and not just topic ideas, but also maybe some suggestions on who might be resources for presenting. Sometimes that's the struggle. We know what we want to see. We're just not sure who should be doing the presenting. So I would always encourage that you can send that to me or Josh or anybody in the executive committee, and we'll get that taken care of. So does anyone else have any questions or anything they'd like to share? It's a kind of an open time.
Hey, this is BJ. If anyone knows an undergrad student at Iowa State who is looking for some work, getting some GIS experience, analytics is hiring some employees through the Iowa State Job Board to help us with our analytical data entry. So it's super exciting, very cutting edge stuff.
Have you
It's
been
like-
able to get any applications yet?
We've gotten a few, but I don't know. Did Jesse reach out to you guys, Robin?
No. And the reason I'm asking is if you have the direct link to that I guess the page that's describing the job either on the Iowa State site or on yours, I can share that with our GIS list. Because I don't know that I've seen that come across.
Yeah, because we go through Intrans, so we tend to get engineering students, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work out very good for us.
Is it, if there's anything you could send me that would point students to a location to get information, I will send it to the campus GIS list.
Cool, thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. And like I said, we will be sending out a recording of this with some additional information. And so be looking for that, and we'll send any suggestions for future Lunch and Learns topics to me at my email at mcutler@schneidergis.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Great.
great
Those were
Wednesday.
presentations.
See
Appreciate
y'all
it.
later.
Thanks, Josh and Micah. Without you two, this doesn't happen.
Mhm.